Hi everyone, how's it going? My name is IsaacPrivett, and we're going to talk about my presentation called Silent but Deadly, and it's using ultrasonic sound as a means for exfiltrating data. So essentially, I'm going to show a couple of demos. We're going to go through a little bit of history and some research that I went through, and then I'll show you a video demonstration and stuff like that. We'll get to it. But a little bit about myself. I'm a professional penetration tester for Second Labs. It's a penetration testing firm out of Mississauga. I'm new to the game. I graduated from state not too long ago, and we were at the information systems security. Um, and well, hopefully, I'm sure there's some purple team people in here too, but hopefully this talk will help a little bit of both. Red team, I'm hoping it gives you a little bit of food for thought and maybe finding some interesting ways of circumventing air gap systems or stuff like that. And blue team, maybe to think about some other avenues that you can be attacked, because not all data exfiltration happens over the internet. So if you have your SIEM alerts only for looking for that kind of thing, something like this could fly underneath the radar. Okay. So to start off, I'm going to just give a couple demos, just something exciting to kind of get us thinking about it. So I'm going to play a little script on this computer right here, and I want anybody to raise their hand if they can hear it. Anybody hear that? No? Well, interestingly enough, I've got a little frequency analyzer, and you can see these little dots here, right here. You can hear it? Barely hear it, yeah. So it's using, usually I go up to 20 kilohertz for this, but this is actually at 17, which is within the realm of some people's hearing, some people's not, mine not, because I went to a lot of concerts and stuff like that, and you ruin your hearing. But you can see it right here. These are dots, and it's actually spitting out binary that I could theoretically record with just a wave binary, a wave recorder, and then I can recreate this data later. So right now it's actually telling everybody my saved Wi-Fi details, so all my passwords and stuff like that for my Wi-Fi. So if you want to try to record this and recreate it, you can if you want. Secretive this can be, because if you do this on a system that's air gapped and it's playing, no one's going to know the difference because it'll play in the background. I've got it to where it's a script that'll automatically run when your computer starts, and it'll start chirping off details from your computer, whatever I'm looking for, and it'll chirp it off. And I can record it. I've tested it out. I can record it like outside the room. So if I get it on your computer, and I'm standing outside the room, and I can just record it on my phone, take it home, recreate the data, and now I've got the data, and it doesn't even go onto the internet. So it's kind of fun to do stuff like that, and I've been doing a lot of my computer. Anybody see this doing anything? No, it's just a command prompt, not doing anything, right? Actually, what it's doing right now is very subtly changing the screen. Actually, it's saying hello in binary right now. I'll show you. I'll show you a version of it where I'll show you a version with it a little bit. This is like 20% difference, and you can see the screen going like that. So now it's like, so now you can see what's happening as opposed to before where knowing what's happening, and it's hard to tell the difference because your eyes are constantly adjusting to the light. So it looks to me when I'm at the computer like that's line of sight of your computer. So these are different techniques that people can use, and I've been studying. Sorry, there we go. And this is kind of like a um, little bio of what we're going to go through. First, we're going to do our intro, I did the demos, and we're going to go over a little bit of research, try to learn something, I guess. And it'll be just kind of like a basic background for people who aren't familiar with side channel techniques. And then I'm going to go over kind of like methodology of how you would do an attack like this. Because we'll crash, but and some of the techniques that you can deliver this payload, strategies of doing it. And then I'm going to talk about data reconstruction. What do you do after you record all this data? Like, how do you get it back to make something useful? Because I don't know about you, but most of us can't read binary, right? I mean, can after a while. And then we'll talk about lessons learned. Okay, so we have this problem. If a system isn't connected to the network, how do we exfiltrate data from it? Stuff like that. And they intentionally air gap these systems because they think that it makes them immune to attack. Unfortunately, we know from history that's not necessarily the case. It makes it more difficult. And with my technique, there are ways to circumvent air gaps and getting data from it. Okay. And what are side channel attacks? Side channel attacks exploit indirect information such as physical emissions or system behavior to gain insights into a system's operation and extract different techniques. But side channel attacks, a lot of people think of them as like they happen mostly in labs. And so when you're reading about different about side channeling techniques, a lot of them, like there was one that came out not too long ago. Ultrasonic sound to exfiltrate data, but they did it in a lab and they only could do it from a very short period away. Like they can only get the data from like, let's say this distance from the laptop or a computer. Um, and there are reasons for that. Like some people, I think they do it, but surface, right? And your motherboard speaker, I'm sure you've heard it. Like, I don't know, I've been playing with computers since I was a kid, and I've broken something, and it goes beeping at you. That's your motherboard speaker, and most speakers have the ability to play sound ultrasonic level. Um, Still, and especially air gap systems are typically older systems, like legacy systems, and they do. So what happens with my script is it will look for first your computer speaker, and then it'll automatically default to that. But then if it doesn't see that, it'll use your motherboard speakers. The external speakers are louder, so those are typically the ones you can hear outside of a room. But your motherboard speaker can be pretty loud, so you can probably hear it, the ultrasonic sound, maybe the distance of that science. I don't know how many people use Apple. We use them for work. It also works on your iPhone. And basically, it's a side channel technique that it's vulnerable to Safari. It uses WebKit and Safari, and they're able to get your sensitive data from like your Gmail passwords and all that stuff like that using this. And it just came out. I think it just came out like last month. So it uses. If you want to look it up, it also uses the Spectre technique. I'm not going to go into detail as far as that what that is, but Google it. It's really really cool. And I find all these side channel techniques really awesome because it's something different from just like banging away at a keyboard and trying to like get root on a system, right? This is a little bit more fun. Okay, if I can get my, there we go. So here's a list of different side channel techniques out there. I'm sure this isn't a comprehensive list by any means. I'm sure the NSA and stuff like that has all kinds of different ways. Actually, people use this in web a lot of times. Like you'll send password tests, trying to brute force passwords and stuff like that. And you can use timing attacks to see like how long it takes some of this stuff. And as well with side channeling techniques, power analysis. Basically, you look at for subtle changes in power as as the system is doing like hashes and stuff like that. And I'll talk about it in a minute on how they do that. They basically look at how much your CPU draws the power, and you can actually use that to crack hashes, and it's pretty interesting. They look at electromagnetic emissions, like displays. There's really cool ways that you can use like SDRs to look at monitors and you look at the electromagnetic waves and you can recreate the monitor. I've actually done it at home. Oh, God, you know this one. I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, it's called the Van Eck radiation. And I don't know it off the top of my head, but I have played with it with my SDR. Yeah, it's pretty cool if you can set it up, get it working, because it's like a black and white view. You look at the cat, you can mess up the cache. You can look at fault analysis and thermal attacks, which is also really cool. Like heat traces looking, like you can have a heat thermal camera pointed at keyboard and like basically use it as a keylogger based upon the. There's all kinds of different ways that you can side channel and use it to. So coming to the end of the research, this is a little bit about the history of side channel attacks. They go all the way back to 1943 when the British intelligence was trying to crack the Enigma code with the Enigma machines. And they actually hired special listeners that knew they could come up with a sound to help with. They listened to the machines and help them figure out what settings the Enigma machine was. And then we had the Tempest project, and then from the 1960s, that was when the NSA just really got into it, looking at side channeling and look at different electromagnetic emissions the machines give off. And they were able to use that to basically recreate data and detect what's going on. And actually, that's a lot of the reason nowadays why we have the shielded wires and stuff like that, because unshielded wires give off electromagnetic radiation, and you can use that to see what's going through the wire, essentially. And then when we get to the digital age, this guy right here, Paul Coker, He was really, really cool, and I've read some of his papers. He used timing attacks to crack RSA keys and Diffie-Hellman and stuff like that. And then he used differential power analysis as well to do the same thing. And it is really cool to read that research because you see where they trace the power analysis on the power analysis one, and there are a bunch of graphs in a row, and they just keep sending this similar stuff, and they look at the difference on the graphs, and they're able to use that to crack like 128-bit keys and stuff like that. And so what they do is because those keys are so difficult, they break up the keys in little parts, and so they only crack certain bytes of the key, and then they put it all together, and then they crack those keys. It's really, really cool. So I highly recommend you guys, if you have time, to do a little bit of research on it, especially this paper right here. That one is really, really cool. And then in the 2000s, we get cache attack surfaces, and then or acoustic cryptanalysis gains a little bit of traction. And then it moves into what I've been into, the ultrasonic side channel attacks. And then, like I said, the Casper technique just came out this past year from the South Korea team. And it does something very similar to what I'm going to show you guys today. Okay. What is ultrasonic sound? Does anybody know the definition? Well, I guess it's right there. But anyway, I turned off the animations because I thought they were kind of distracting. The human ear can hear between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz under ideal circumstances. This gentleman here was in the beeps earlier, but unfortunately, as we get older, a lot of our hearing gets damaged from loud noises, loud music, airplanes, whatever. It reduces our spectrum that we can hear. Interestingly enough, like I tested it on my son, and he can hear almost all the way up to 20 kilohertz, but I can only hear to about 16 kilohertz. So it gives you a lot of room to play because ultrasonic frequencies technically start at 20 kilohertz, but the technology that we have that you can buy doesn't necessarily pick up much above the 20 kilohertz range. So it really is beneficial that to play off people's messed up hearing, that you can extend that range, and you can use that to your advantage, because I just played the sound and binary. But if you want to make your own protocol to make the jumps in the range like smaller, you can play the data faster. Because right now with the binary data, it's decently slow. It would probably take about 10 minutes to send all my Wi-Fi data out. So that's a long time to record. But if you play with the spectrum a little bit, you could probably increase that by 3-4 times if you spend the time doing it. So I played with it a bit, and I played with buying little microphones and stuff like that, and different speakers to play with it. But most will go up to the 20 kilohertz right off the shelf. Yeah, what's up? That actually would be a great idea. He's like, did I hear it? Did I hear it? But I don't know how accurate it would be is the problem. Yeah, so most stuff you can buy will go all the way up to the 20 kilohertz, and some will go up to 21. And you can actually look at the specs of the microphones and stuff like that you're buying to see how far it goes. And you can get some that will go up higher, but they're pretty expensive. But I did find some like on DigiKey and stuff like that. They're little tiny guys, and you can barely see them. So if you're wanting to weaponize this, like make your own little device, you can buy a little microphone and put it on there. It doesn't need to connect to the internet, because all it has to do is play that sound off, right? Yeah, what's up? It's just straight stream because it's an air gap system. And I'll explain a little bit more later. It's not a two-way street. You get the script running on the system that you're looking that gets the data, and it plays it. And you're supposed to be around to hear it or record it or whatever. It's not a back and forth. And the reason why is it's more stealthy that way, right? You get it on the system, it starts doing its thing, and there's nothing for someone to detect after that point, right? It's just playing. I used PowerShell script to do most of the stuff, and I'll explain why. But it just it's like a set it and forget it. It just goes and does its thing, and there's nothing for like a sysadmin or something like that to detect unless they can, like this guy, he can hear all the way up to 20, right? Okay. And the last research slide here that I have is okay. Well, what is ultrasonic data exfiltration? And it's pretty self-explanatory at this point. Like you essentially use ultrasonic sound, and you can either have it play binary or whatever, however you want to create the script. But you just play these sounds, and and it's going to be giving away data. And you have to have a way to record the sound and do it later. I mean, I haven't personally made a script that will do it in real time. That sounds like a future thing to do, but it sounds really difficult. But it would be possible to do it real time. But the easiest way for us is just to record it, play it later. Okay, so now we know what we're wanting to do. How do we get the payload onto the system, right? That's always the trick. I came up with 3 different realistic ways of getting it onto an air gap system. I'm sure there's more. The first one, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called mouse jacking. It is super, super fun. It's using a device. I use a device called a Crazy Radio. You can get them online, and they have a awesome range. I think it's like over 100 meters away. And so it takes advantage of a vulnerability in wireless mice. So if you have a wireless mouse, you might want to look into this. And it basically can hijack your wireless mouse dongle, that little USB you plug into the side of your computer. It hijacks that, and it will play keystrokes in Windows. It'll start, and Windows thinks you're typing when it's actually my Crazy Radio typing my script on your computer. So that's why I like it so much, because you can do it from. I'll show a video demonstration of us doing it outside a room. But you can do it from pretty far away. It's a lot of fun. But if they don't have a wireless mouse, you can use something called a bad USB, also known as a rubber ducky. Plug it in there, and if you get physical access to the air gap system, it'll automatically typing out your script for you. Or you can just use the modified USB that does something very similar. Again, my preference is mouse jacking because I think it's cooler, and I'm always going for what's cooler, right? Okay. Okay, so I broke this delivery up into 8 steps. Basically, the first thing you need to do is find your target. When you're using mouse jacking, you can use a program called BetterCap. It's an open source system, open source software you can get. Runs on Linux. It's really cool. And you can use it to listen for vulnerable mice out there. I actually tested it out when I was in school. I went into the library and just turned on BetterCap just to see how many mice out there were vulnerable to this, and there were quite a few. I didn't actually send anything to anybody because it's illegal. Yeah, it was me. No. Yeah. But yeah, so it's very prevalent. Like I actually found a mouse, like one of the top wireless mice on Amazon. Actually, the first result is vulnerable to mouse jacking. Yes, actually, yep. And the problem is with these cheaper wireless mice, the manufacturers, it's more expensive to fix it as opposed to just leaving it the way it is. But there are patches out there if you have wireless mouse. It is vulnerable. A lot of companies do provide a patch. Go look it up if you think that it's vulnerable. Anyway, so then the next step, now that you know where you're going, which your target is, you inject the malicious script with BetterCat, and what that does, it works like a wireless version of a rubber ducky. It starts injecting keystrokes into the victim machine. And the reason why this next step is PowerShell, I chose PowerShell because Windows no longer comes with a built-in compiler. And so these systems that I'm targeting are air. You can't download a compiler. Windows used to, like old version of Windows, do have Visual Basic, and theoretically you could type and compile up a Visual Basic script if it's a very old Windows machine, but those aren't out there as much anymore. So I found the best delivery method for this attack is actually PowerShell. So you can use this to start injecting script. Open up your PowerShell screen and start basically typing out PowerShell script like you're sitting at the keyboard. But you can do it from 100 meters away, which is really, really cool. The next step in this is volume control. That's really important because the best way to run this script, it works both in regular PowerShell and admin PowerShell. But my favorite part of the script actually runs in admin PowerShell because I make it persistent on the system, right? If you're only running to run the script once, you don't have to go through the admin PowerShell or the volume control. But what happens when you go from regular PowerShell to admin PowerShell? Anybody know what happens? It makes a loud noise. It goes beep or whatever that beep noise is the window does. So my script actually turns the volume down on the computer to 0 when it's bringing up admin PowerShell. And then it'll bring it back up to 0, up to 100 after it goes in the admin PowerShell, because you won't be able to hear your own sound, right? So that's those next two steps. And then the script starts playing the ultrasonic sound. And so it's detectable by microphones of a lot of different kinds of microphones on your phone. You can just have your phone nearby. You can stand outside in the hallway and you'll be able to pick it up. And so it starts beeping. And it'll beep through in binary what data you're looking for off this system. What's up? I did not. I guess it does. Anyway, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. So then you record the data, and then you take the data, the file, which ends up being a WAV file, and you use my script, and it recreates the data back to what it was. And it's basically, you can essentially pull it up on PowerShell and see what your Wi-Fi data is, and then prints it out on the screen. And then when the end result, I'll show you, it prints out the exact same thing. So it's really cool. Okay. So the delivery of the script works on 2 layers. And I kind of explained it already. You have to have the Ducky script, which I'll go into Ducky script a little bit, and then a screenshot down the road. And then you have to have the code that's the PowerShell script that actually runs on the machine. So it's like a double layer stored there. And you can modify it to however you want. Like I have it currently to do Wi-Fi data, but as long as you can find information via PowerShell on the system, you can modify the script really easily to do whatever you want. And then there's the execution, which that's the fun part, is when it actually runs on the victim machine. And there's ways to go around it to where you can obfuscate what you're doing to make sure that it makes it less likely, because you don't want someone to look over at the machine, the air gap system, and be like, oh man, what's going on over there? So there's ways around to make it less noticeable. What's up? And yeah, it depends on what data you're looking for. But let's say this machine right here, if it's beeping off all its Wi-Fi, its data, I've gotten it up to about it takes about 8 minutes or so to reliably get it. Long file that it sends out, but it does take a little bit of time. So that's what I was saying when you can buy little microphone devices and leave it in the room. Theoretically, if you could do that and just peace out. But yeah, it doesn't have to be as quiet as you expect, right? Okay, so Ducky Script. Has anybody around here played with Ducky Script? Yeah, it's fun. Nah, not really. Assembly, if you've ever done it, it can be a pain in the butt. It really can be. Ducky Script is like super easy to understand. So, like, let's say right here, it's GUI R. What that's doing is that's basically doing the bringing up run on your Windows machine, right? And then it's typing. It delays a minute, and it types the string PowerShell into the run thing, and so now it's bringing up PowerShell, and then it hits enter, and it delays more, and then it types the string, and then enter, and then types another string, and enter, and then I added delays and stuff like that in there because um, sometimes the system, it's Ducky script can run way too fast for the system, so you add delays in there just to make sure everything comes out smooth and you get everything typed in the way it wants because it actually takes time. Yeah, it's milliseconds. Yeah, I'm not doing 1,000 seconds. That would take forever. Yeah. So Ducky Script's really fun. If you have a rubber ducky or looking into rubber ducky, look into Ducky Script. It's a lot of fun to play with. This is a picture of a screenshot of the PowerShell script that actually what I was running actually does. So this is what a Ducky script actually sends over and runs into your system. And as you can see, it's getting your net address um, and all your Wi-Fi data, and it's basically saving it into a file called stats.txt, and then it changes it over to binary, removes the item stats.txt, and then it basically goes through and iterates through that binary data. And if it's a 0, it plays at 17 kilohertz, and if it's a 1, it plays at 18. I've done later versions of this script to add another level to this. It's like called a control beep. And it makes it easier when you're reconstructing the script, reconstructing the data, because it'll do is it'll play like a 17, and then all of a sudden it'll play a 19, and then it'll do an 18, and then it'll do a 19. So it plays a 19 in between every one, and so that way the script knows when one beep is, and so that way it makes it easier to recreate it, and it makes it more reliable. Half a kilohertz or something like that, and you can put them all over the place within that range. I think the 0.25 range is the most reliable when you're recording with a regular recording device. So there's room to play. And so I only was doing binary because it's just super reliable and easy. It is slow, but you could do octal or something like that. This is a video demonstration of it working from when we were at SATE doing it. Oh, maybe not. Hold on. Just a button. Go back. So you see the computer sitting inside the room. We're outside the room in the hallway, running the script from out on the hallway. You can create. Well, this is the background of the screen. What's happening? So we got a view of the actual screen over there, and this is like the desktop. And you see it. It's automatically typing this from the hallway. And so like you can see, I'm not sitting at the keyboard and all this stuff is happening. And it's moved into Min PowerShell. I set the volume back up to full blast. And now it's running the script that I showed you earlier. And it types it all out. In a second, you'll see after it's done typing. I left it to where you can see the binary bytes play. So now it's running the script. See the ones right here? And it'll go to zeros. And it's actually running, beeping out the binary right there and running the script from outside the hallway. So it's a really cool little script. And then you can see we're outside and you can see the binary right here, ones and zeros for the thing. So it just goes to show that there's quite a bit of range and it's pretty prevalent right there. And we could have gotten farther away. So that's kind of like a demonstration of it actually working. Sorry, I didn't want to do it like in person because that would leaves chance for messing up. That to happen necessarily in real world situation because someone just walks up and they see, oh, what's this computer doing? So there's ways to obfuscate what's happening to where you're doing this and people won't know. And I already talked about the volume control to mitigate issues with them hearing the user access control noise. But there's also ways to hide the windows. So if you add into the script any of these, like you can make the screen 1 pixel after it's delivered. And you can also encode the script in base64. PowerShell actually allows you to convert strings to base64 and run it. So that way, when you're doing persistence, like I save the file as a .ps1 file. You can, before you save it as a file for .ps1, you can encrypt it in base64. So that way, when someone comes across the file on the file system, it's not just it's showing on the screen. And so I've tested it out. It's a lot of fun to watch the screen just disappear, and then it starts looking like a regular screen, but it's still chirping out the binary, right? Okay, and to answer this guy's question earlier about noise, there's a off-the-shelf program called Audacity that can reduce noise. So if you see the screenshot up top, you see the binary up top, and I have that control beep on this particular screenshot that I was telling you guys about. And you see all this noise right here. This is background noise. And actually, it even works with really strong noise. The Audacity has filters that will automatically reduce noise. So you can pick a range that you're looking for. And see we're looking for this range right here. And with a click of a button, now you've got a very much cleaner sample that you're looking for. And so even areas with like a lot of background noise, you can use something like Audacity to clean it up really quickly. And then you cleaned up your wave, and now you can use it to use the Python script to get the data, right? And then comes the data reconstruction part of this. As I said before, it uses waves. And I don't know if you guys are familiar. The Python script, what it does is it slices up all these samples into small bytes, right? And it basically slices it up, then looks for the beep, and then it finds the beep, and then adds that to a string. And then so it starts building the string as you go in an array. And then that's how it recreates the data after a while. So it slices it up, it looks for the frequency you're looking for, and it adds the bits into an array. And then now you have a file, now you have a binary file of all the bits. And then after that point, Bob's your uncle, because now you have the data you're looking for. All you have to do is either use the script and it'll basically recreate it for you and print it out on the screen, but it also saves it into a file. Here's some code. I like to show a little bit of code of what we did. I'm not going to go, I don't have time to really go through all these functions, but basically I'm going to tell you a little bit of the libraries we use, Python libraries we use. And I'm going to put this stuff on GitHub later. And so if you look me up on LinkedIn, I'll share it on GitHub. So if you guys want to play with it, have fun with it, do whatever you want to do, you guys can play with it. So the libraries it uses are the Wave, Binaski, NumPy, and Skippy. And that's all you need, really. It's not the most complicated script in the world. And basically, all it does is get the name of the WAV file, open the WAV file, get the recording info, loop through the samples that I told you the slices, then decode for the beats, close the WAV file, and then just decodes the message from binary. It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is, but these are all just like functions that I use to get it done, right? Sorry, I'm running out of time, so I'm rushing a little bit. Yeah. So decoding the data. This is a little bit of just a couple screenshots of it actually running. Up here you see the list. It's running the Python file, and it basically decodes the beeps and the bits. It's done, and then now you have your decoded message, and you see the Wi-Fi data, and that's all just from our recorded file that we did. So it's pretty cool. I have time. Yeah, I think I do. Just take like a minute, and you can just see it running. Just to prove that it actually does what it does. Like, so this is just a test file. It works pretty fast, like not too bad. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So then it runs through, and then it decodes the message, and it's exactly the same as what it's before. And then we even ran a hash just to make sure that both the file and the decoded file and the test file were the same. Right. Yeah. So we ran the hash just to make sure, and as you can see, the hashes match. Nothing too crazy there. Oh, come on. Okay. So, final thoughts. Some of the challenges that we ran into when we were doing this. Transmission reliability. We had a couple issues at first with the crazy radio sending the mouse jacking, and if it misses a keystroke, now your script doesn't work. So we had to find ways to figure that out. And actually, the random way that I found that works best for my crazy radio was I wrapped it in tinfoil. Yeah, I just wrapped it up in tinfoil and taped it on there. It looks really funny, but it improved the reliability tremendously. So that kind of helped. We talked about the transfer speed, and that was a good idea in the octet thing. There's ways to improve it. Wrong, your whole file is now kind of messed up. So there's ways to fix it. Actions attack can involve in too. Like we limited it to mouse jacking, but other delivery methods can be invented and explored. And other side channel techniques can be played with, like I showed you the screen brightness. So and I'm sure there are plenty other ways that someone smarter than me can find to attack air-gapped systems. And what did we learn? Most people should pay attention to their wireless mice and keyboards, because there's so many out there that are vulnerable to this. And PowerShell, I wasn't really big on PowerShell before, but since then, PowerShell has become one of my favorite things ever because it is so powerful. Like if you don't know PowerShell, I highly recommend going out and learning PowerShell because Windows systems are everywhere, and you've got it, and you can pretty much do whatever you want on Windows systems. And then last one, it's not easy to attack an air gap system without getting caught. People can catch this attack. Like if someone's sitting there right when it's typing out that script, you're caught. And it's possible to do this and get away with it, but it's also not easy to get not to get caught. So just be careful if you're ever going to try this on a real air gap system. I don't recommend doing it on a system you don't control. Yeah. Just be careful. It's not easy to do it without getting caught. So here we go. Thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, let me know. Any questions? I'll see your hand up. Sure. Yeah, it was my capstone for SATE. Yeah, no PowerShell was taught in the program, so it would have helped me a lot. I had to teach myself PowerShell. And my inspiration was, I don't know, I was just looking for something fun and interesting and hard to do. And I don't remember how I came up with it. I just, it was just one of those things that just happened one time. Sure. What is there? No, not with mouse jacking, but newer duckies. I don't know if you've heard about it yet. They've changed ducky script, and the new duckies can do, if it's a specific operating system, do this or do this other one. I haven't, one of the new duckies, I haven't actually played with that one yet, but it's one of the new functionalities and new rubber duckies that are out there. So, any file, like honestly, as long as you can find a way to send it, you can use text files, just a straight up binary file, which would take forever because if you ever looked at a binary file, they're like this long for like just a picture or something like that. But it is possible. You can do whatever you want. I just did in my testing text files. Mouse checking uses Ducky script. So it's just a different way of delivering the Ducky script wirelessly as opposed to just using a Ducky because it's easier because you might not be right next to the keyboard, right? You might not be able to you might see the system on the other side of the wall or be sitting in the parking lot and detect the system, but you don't have physical access to it. So then you can use mouse jacking and it detects it right there. Did you have a question? Okay. Anybody else? Oh, yeah. Oh, oh, yeah. Honestly, you could do it. Most kiosks actually run off a version of Windows, and a lot of them, if you look, have a USB port right there. So you could theoretically plug a bad USB into it. Yep, you can do that if they don't have a wireless mouse on it. You can just plug one of the dongles in, and now they do. And so they don't have a mouse there. Those dongles are so small that you can plug it like in the back of a tower, and no one would know it was there. So you could do it that way. Mm-hmm. You could do it that way by overpowering, by just playing like blasting. But the problem is, you only have typically one set of speakers, right? And so if you're blasting it, putting it up to full blast and trying to drone out this sound, all the other sound that's regular sounds on a computer that are playing are now playing full blast. So part of this, yeah, something like that. And you could theoretically do it and jam it that way. And that would be an interesting mitigation technique. But again, you're constantly playing this sound out into the world. And it could, I haven't actually. I've been more focusing on the attack front of it, right? Any other questions? Help with key logging? I mean, I'm sure you could do scripts that would do key logging and just start beeping out the. I haven't personally done it, but as long as you can come up with the PowerShell script that it needs to do the key logging and start beeping out the key, I'm sure you could come up with a way to do it. And that would be a really interesting attack vector where real time you can key log. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, I've looked into it because I personally enjoy IoT stuff. And I have played with coming up with a device, like a plug-in device that will do this. I haven't personally finished that project yet, but I've been toying with the idea. What's up? I've not been able to bypass the Windows login screen. So this particular attack, right, in its current form, has requires somebody to be logged in. So yeah. Captain Crunch. So CPN Crunch. I don't know if I have it publicly available yet on that, but I will release it on there. So you can also look me up on LinkedIn and just shoot me a message and I'll be happy to share. Cool. Well, thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. A lot of good questions.